The ACC only got 5 teams into the NCAA tournament last year. It's time for a big rebound.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Wednesday, October 26th, 2022. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shaden. Joining me as he does every Wednesday is the man, Coach Pack Kilby. We want to thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen or your first watch every single day. Please don't forget that the show is free and available anywhere you get podcasts, so you can subscribe right now to make sure that you don't miss a second of your team every day. We'd like to thank LinkedIn Jobs for being the official recruiting sponsor across the Locked On College Network. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, Pack, it is time. We're like a week and a half away from Carolina's first game from the start of the college basketball season. So we need an ACC conference preview. And so, folks, that's what we're doing today. We're going to use the preseason voting to help shape our conversation. So we're going to talk about predicted standings, all-ACC teams, rookie of the year, player of the year. There was no vote on coach of the year, no vote on defensive player of the year. So you're not going to hear Coach Davis. You're not going to hear Leaky. So they didn't get snubbed. There was just no vote on that in the preseason. Don't get your panties in a wad. All is good. Also, we're going to do some NCAA tournament projections. As I said, the ACC only had 5 teams in the NCAA tournament last year, so we're going to have to look at seeing if they can do a little bit better. So, Pack, we're going to start by looking at the preseason standings vote and what the media said at ACC Tip-Off will be the standings at the end of the season. Here's how this voting process works for those listening so that we can just know all the behind the scenes of it. There's 101 people that voted, so 101 total votes. Here's the 4 things they voted for. All-ACC, so they listed 5 players, and we were given 2 teams, the first and second team. Preseason player of the year, voters made 1 selection for that, and preseason rookie of the year, people made 1 selection for that, and the predicted order of finish. So each voter just listed out all of them from 1 to 15, what they thought it would be, different points awarded based on those places. Keep in mind, this is a different group than is what is voting in the postseason. At the end of the season, when there's all that voting done, that is done by the coaches, the play-by-play announcer, and 2 selected media members from each school. And so that's a lot more of an official vote with people that have been having eyes on these teams all season long. So, Pack, let me run down through the predicted order of finish really quick, and then I want to hear your observations about this. Number 1, UNC with 90 votes, 90 of those 101 votes. It makes sense. It's an overwhelming majority. After them is Duke, 2 first-place votes. Virginia, 6 first-place votes. That's the second most. Miami at 4 with 2 first-place votes. Florida State, 5th. Notre Dame, 6th. Virginia Tech, 7th, and also got a first-place vote. And then 8 Syracuse, 9 Wake, 10 NC State, 11 Clemson, 12 Louisville, 13 Boston College, 14 Pitt, and 15th Georgia Tech. So, Pack, when you look at this, what are some observations you have at looking at this predicted order of finish?
Yeah. So my first observation is, or first thought, I guess I should say, is I don't necessarily agree with the top order. I do agree with USC at 1, and I know we'll dive into this a little bit more. I just, Duke is so inexperienced and Virginia is so experienced. I have some questions there. And then lastly, the bottom 6, what really stands out to me, like NC State all the way through Georgia Tech, may be the worst bottom half of the ACC, or bottom third of the ACC, I think that I've seen in quite a while. And I'll just be flatly honest with you. Like, NC State's at 10, and it wouldn't have shocked me to see them at 15. Like, I just don't think they're very good. So, now positive to that for the Tar Heels is that there should be some, like, hey, we should go in here and take care of business, and we should be able to play multiple bodies, and we should be able to rest some of our starters. And so That's all should, but you never know.
Should, yes.
Major curveballs at you, as we've seen time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. The bottom of the ACC is just kind of abysmal, frankly. Like, how has Jeff Capel never been able to get it going at Pitt? Like that surprises me, honestly. But I'm with you. The bottom like tier of this conference standings, you just jumble them around and throw out, and we'll see. You know, any of these 6, I wouldn't be surprised to see playing on the first day of the ACC tournament in March there. And so, yeah, I think you're right. There's this big dichotomy to me between, like, I see the top 7 in one tier, and there's some sub tiers within that for me, but we don't need to get all the way into that. And then there's that bottom 6, and then Syracuse and Wake Forest might be their own little middle tier there to me. Some unknowns. You don't have no more Boeheims walking through the door other than Jim on the bench, and Wake Forest loses Player of the Year from last year, Alondis Williams. And so we'll just have to wait and see on that. For me, it's really interesting that Virginia gets the second most first place votes, but it makes sense because, as you said, Duke is going to be uber talented. Let's not make any bones about that. But once again, as you said, highly inexperienced, right? They've got Jeremy Roach coming back to run the show, and that's a helpful thing for a team. But not only are they experienced on the floor, they've got a first-year young head coach on the bench in Jon Scheyer. I think Jon Scheyer might be younger than me. I need to look that up. Next time you're talking, I'm going to look that up. And so another thing for me is Louisville is 12th on this list. It's so weird to see Louisville down there, but obviously they've got a first-year coach as well in Kenny Payne. So, man, but I think when you have 15 teams, it's so hard to have strength all the way from 1 to 15. And I think the conference was so much better when there were just 9 teams. It's similar to the Big 12 now. They've only got 10 teams, but man, you got so like the Big 12 in basketball this year is going to be really strong again. Yeah. Pack, when you look at this list, outside of anything you've already said, is there anybody you think is overrated?
Sure. For me, I think Syracuse is overrated. I know we kind of talked about them potentially being their own little middle tier. To me, I'm just quite frankly not very high on them. I don't think they have the talent like we're used to seeing Syracuse have. I think Jim Boeheim is maybe a little bit out of touch in regards to that these days. I don't see them being what we're used to seeing Syracuse be. And, there's sometimes where Syracuse can like pop in there and they can surprise you and, hey, they squeak into the NCAA tournament and then they make this huge run.
Because nobody knows how to play the zone.
Yeah, right. They never see it. So, but honestly, I just don't think they're very good. And then, if we want to, it depends on, I guess, how you view the term overrated. But if we're looking at someone finishing lower than what they're projected, I think Duke is overrated in that sense. To me, I actually have them 4th because I have so many question marks. Now, I could come back later and they answer some of those questions, and I could say, I could see them finishing 2nd. I could see them winning the conference. I don't know. They're going to be talented, but like you said, they're going to be young. The coaching staff is young. It's a whole new experience for everyone in that program. And to me, I see that as just concerning for now.
Absolutely. And not to mention that they've got some injury concerns coming into the year for Dereck Whitehead. I just learned that they're being really cautious right now with Dereck Lively as well. And so, we're going to have to watch that. Speaking of going back to Duke, I looked it up. Yeah, I'm about 2.5 years older than Jon Scheyer. So cool. That's awesome. For me, in terms of somebody that's overrated, I'm going to go with Miami. I know they are picked 4th. But I know there's a lot of love for Isaiah Wong, and I see that. But when I look at last year's team, I think it was Cameron McGusty that really carried a lot of the weight of that. And so Nigel Pack coming in from K-State will be good, but they've lost so much other stuff, so many other talented players that you've got Wong and Pack. And outside of that, I just don't see much. And so honestly, give me Florida State, Notre Dame, or Virginia Tech, who are 5th, 6th, and 7th. I would take any and all of those above Miami preseason. Now, obviously, that could be total cold takes exposed later, but that's where I'm at with it. Just briefly here in terms of underrated teams, I'm going to go with Virginia Tech. I know they were selected 7th. But man, I think they've got a lot more returning. Is in particular Justyn Mutts, who folks might remember from times Carolina played them last year. He's just relentless and a phenomenally talented player. Along with bringing back Hunter Couture and Sean Padula. Obviously, they lose Kevy Aluma, who was a great ACC basketball player, but there's still a lot coming back in that pack. What about for you for an underrated team?
I like Virginia Tech. You mentioned them. I'm not going to use them, but their head coach, Mike Young, he came from Walker, and he's nationally known for just running amazing sets on the offensive
That's right. That's right.
It's a really good offensive mind, puts his players in a position to succeed. So, like you, I like them, but I like Florida State as a team that I think is underrated. And look, my thought is, Leonard Hamilton, if y'all don't know, is a phenomenal basketball coach.
That's right.
And I just don't foresee him having 2 down years in a row. I really don't. I think he's got a good staff. I think he's got talent. They're going to guard really well. It's tough to win at Florida State. Tar Heel fans, we know that well, right? It seems like we always either play badly there or struggle to win there. So I like Leonard Hamilton. I like his team. I think they're going to be a team that definitely make some noise this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Final thing before when we wrap up this section, Pack, if you had to look at it now, heading into the ACC tournament, for those who aren't aware, the top 4 teams in the league in the regular season get double buys in the ACC tournament. So if you had to pick a foursome right now, who would those 4 teams be?
North Carolina at the 1, Virginia at the 2, Florida State at the 3, and Duke at the 4.
Okay. Yeah, I think in some order, I'm with you on UNC, Duke, and Virginia. And to be a contrarian, I'll just ride with my Virginia Tech pick and put them in to that 4th slot, or maybe they could squeak into 3rd ahead of Duke or Virginia. There we'll have to wait and see on that one. Well, it's not only the order of standings that was released, but also the All-ACC teams were released as well. Do Pack and I agree with those teams? Do we agree with each other? Well, we're going to find out about that right after I tell you about LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs, which helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's incredibly easy to create a free job post, so why not give it a try? Add a job and your purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can prioritize who you want to interview and ultimately hire. You want to finish the year strong, and the right new hire can help you do just that. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, Pack, so moving ahead here, we've got our preseason All-ACC first and second team. Again, 101 votes. Let me quickly run through these 10 players. Armando Bacot, 100 votes. So all but 1 people thought he was in their top 5. Isaiah Wong from Miami, Caleb Love, Terquavion Smith from NC State, and Jeremy Roach from Duke. That rounds out the first team. And the second team, Jayden Gardner from Virginia, Dereck Lively from Duke, Justyn Mutts, Virginia Tech, PJ Hall, Clemson, and RJ Davis from the Tar Heels. And so that's just basically your top 10 vote getters in order is how they put that all together. So, Pac, when you look at this list of 10, what are your observations? What do you see? Did they get this right? Where are you at on it?
Well, for one, they got RJ Davis wrong, which it feels like I'm on this show all the time talking about how everybody knows RJ Davis. But guys, at some point, it's going to click. The kid is unbelievably good, and the fact that only 14 people thought to vote him is mind-boggling to me. But I'll resign. Okay, I'm moving on. PJ Hall, to me, got snubbed on this also. I
should
think
be higher. Do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, look, to me, this is just me. This could also be on Cold Takes Exposed here in a few months. But I think although PJ Hall's battling some injuries and will miss maybe the first month or so of the season, give or take, I think he's a first-team All-ACC guy. I think he's really good. And I think he's going to surprise some people in the ACC this year. So give me RJ and PJ on the first team. And that's my thoughts. That's my observations on that. What about you?
Yeah, I'm with you. And PJ Hall, man, he was somebody I was like, hey, if you leave Clemson, why don't you just move on up the road to Chapel Hill? Because I would be totally down with that. Yeah, listen, I can't complain about Bacot getting 100 out of 101 votes. But I would it's interesting to me that someone did not choose him in their top 5 ACC players. I'm not going to call it egregious because it's based on preseason expectations over, the end of the season when you actually have statistical proof. But I would just like to see that person's list. Who are the 5 players that you thought are going to be more productive ACC players this season than Armando Bacot? That's my big takeaway from just the actual 10 people that are on it. Do I think RJ Davis should be ahead of Jeremy Roach? 100%. Do I think a lot of that second team I would take over them, honestly? And then when we start to look at maybe some players that aren't on the top 10 who might find their way into it on the postseason list based on play, let's just name a couple people that we're keeping our eyes on in the ACC, either that are Tar Heels or play for other teams.
Yeah, Kihei Clark. I don't know how he doesn't make the list. To be honest with you, I was just looking at it a second ago, going, where's he at? I think he's really good. Taylor Mills, transferring from Houston. Matthew Cleveland at Florida State. Those are top 2 scorers back from last year. So those 2 are going to make some noise. Nate Laszewski.
Nate Laszewski from Notre Dame. Yes, he's a dude.
Yeah, he is. So all 4 of those guys are going to be solid players that can make some noise. With Duke, you've got 4 top-tier freshmen. Who knows what they're going to be? Are they going to be healthy? If they are, how are they going to gel? Those 4 are talented enough that they can make a climb into those rankings for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out.
Yeah, with Florida State, you kind of just throw a dart and any of those, I feel like they have 37 guys that all average 12 minutes a game and 10 points a game, basically and that's part of what makes Leonard Hamilton's teams so good. But yeah, I'm really looking at Mills or Cleveland to be one of those guys. Laszewski's another guy that there were some rumors about him maybe transferring out of Notre Dame last year, and I was like, hey, South Bend down to Chapel Hill, not a bad little drive. Come on down. And then I know somebody you've talked a lot about that you think could be on that postseason list, Pack, would be Leaky. We have been sending some messages back and forth recently because Evan Miyakawa, who's a great college basketball analytics guy, has Leaky. I think it was in his top 20 or top 25 based on his models of the most impactful players in college basketball this season. And so maybe Leaky gets not even just defensive player of the year recognition. Maybe he can do enough to work his way onto one of these 3 lists at the end of the season.
Yeah. He had him at 21st. And for all the good that he does defensively, I still think that the media, a lot of the media is just so, and people who are fans of basketball in general are so points driven. They're offensive minded. They're offensive minded driven. And I think because of that, Leaky gets overlooked. But you're absolutely right. There's no doubt he's a top 10 player in the ACC, in my opinion, just based on how good he is defensively.
Yeah, and I think that's the issue, is that people aren't looking at impact. People are measuring it by just who am I going to vote for? Let me go look up their stat sheet. And even when it comes to defense, Leaky is not going to lead the league in blocks or steals because he does his work ahead of time and he doesn't have to get blocks or steals, right? Yeah. And so we harp on that so often, and it It grinds my gears, Pack. It grinds my gears. Come on, America. Stand up and take notice of the greatness of Leaky Black. He's going to wreck your team again and again and again. It's going to happen. And so you know what? Some of these players that are going to get wrecked by Leaky, they're gonna start getting some pit stains, and it sounds to me like they need a little sweat block. I'm going to talk about that a little bit because here in just a second we're going to look at the Player of the Year, the Rookie of the Year, and I want to know how many teams Pack thinks are going to get into the NCAA tournament from the ACC. But first, I do want to tell you about Sweat Block. Listen, Pamela would hide in the office bathroom like every 30 minutes to dry off her armpits so no one would see the wet circles forming under her arms. But thanks to Sweat Block, Pamela finally has her life back. Why? Because she was able to fix her problem using Sweat Block, which gives you the confidence to wear what you want without embarrassing underarm sweat or body odor. In fact, the Sweat Block wipes, they were recently featured and tested on the Rachel Ray Show, used by firefighters. That's awesome. So if you or someone you love is experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweat Block and save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. It's also available on Amazon. Okay, so here we go, Pack, into our last segment of this. So we're going to start with preseason player of the year. Once again, Carolina's getting some great love in all this. Armando Bacot got 82 of the 101 votes. And basically what they did was just list, remember, the voters are voting just one person for their preseason player of the year. And so they've listed anybody who got any votes at all. So in addition to Armando, I mean, it's a huge drop off after that to Isaiah Wong, who got 5. Caleb Love got 4. Jeremy Roach from Duke got 3 votes. PJ Hall, who we've talked about, got 2. RJ got 2. Terquavion Smith from NC State got a vote. Hunter Couture got a vote at Virginia Tech. And Duke's Dereck Whitehead also got 1 vote. And so, Pac, when you look at this, what are your thoughts on some of these guys that got votes? Did Armando get enough of the vote? Do you agree with guys that are getting votes? Where are you at?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't think Armando did get enough of the vote. Although he finished with 82 of the 101, I'm surprised that anyone really thinks otherwise. I know I'm going to maybe sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I still, like I said earlier, I like PJ Hall, I like RJ Davis to finish with more votes at the end of the year than what they just got. PJ Hall is far and away going to be Clemson's best player. He's going to be the focal point of their offense. He's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to get a lot of shots. I think he's efficient. And I think he's going to make some noise, so I could see him climbing. Obviously, I think that RJ is really good. He's going to climb, and so just watch those two. Matter of fact, if I was picking a player of the year and you took Armando out of it, I would give it to RJ. I think he's the second best player in the ACC. So, yes, Carolina fans, we're spoiled. We have number 1 and number 2 in my mind.
And so much of this, like, it's the same thing as like what the conversation we just had about players that might show up on the All-ACC teams list at the end of the year. The reason I pick guys like Kihei Clark from Virginia, Nate Laszewski at Notre Dame, or Mills or Cleveland at Florida State is like typically it's teams that win a lot of games and do well in the conference, and you just pick 1 or 2 of their best players. I feel like that's what usually happens. So that's why I would think guys like that might make it on. And so when we look at this, it's like what teams are going to be good and who's going to be their best player. Ultimately, like that's what this award should go to, not like I think where PJ Hall gets dinged is because Clemson's going to suck, and so that's going to hurt his cause in a conversation like this. Same with like Terquavion Smith from NC State. Bacot's the runaway winner, and it makes sense because in the preseason, you're just voting for what is the most likely outcome to happen. And when you look at this in the preseason, it's Bacot. It just makes sense. Now, the most confusing one on this list to me, all due respect to Hunter Couture. He is a great college basketball player, but he's not even the best player on his own team. How is he going to win the ACC Player of the Year award? And so, again, similar to like maybe this is the same person that didn't put Armando on their All-ACC ballot or something like that. So I don't know what's going on there. All right, preseason rookie of the year. Here's basically what happened here. Let's not spend much time on this, Pack, because I want to keep skating by. Dereck Lively from Duke wins it, but you got 4 Duke players as the top 4 vote getters. It feels like what the media did is just said, Duke's got a whole bunch of talented freshmen. Let's just close our eyes, throw a dart at one of the Duke players, and that's which one we're going with. And so Dereck Lively gets the majority of the vote, Dariq Whitehead quite a bit, and then everybody else is far below that. And so folks, it's going to be one of these Duke players. Just know that that's what's coming, and we'll see it. It is good to know Tyler Nickel got a couple votes. Jalen Washington got a couple votes. Seth Trimble got a vote. I would have thought he would have been higher than either of the other 2 guys, Pack. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm really shocked by that. To me, I mean, Trimble, I think, is probably the best incoming freshman we have, barring some surprises. I was shocked by that too. I actually thought, like, just thinking before this was released, I thought Trimble would finish in the top 4. Because I think he's going to be really good and be really impactful from day one. But obviously, I do understand. Duke has 4 really highly touted freshmen. All 4 of them are probably going to play more minutes than any of the young guys that Carolina has. So,
and I think that's precisely what it is. It's just about opportunity, right? Yeah. If Seth Trimble was at Duke, he would be higher on this list because he would have more time to play. But when you've got Caleb Love and RJ Davis in front of you, you're just not going to have as much opportunity. And if Seth Trimble ends up winning an award like this, it means something really bad has happened to RJ or Caleb. And so I don't want Seth Trimble to win that award this year.
Yeah.
So let's look at 2 other things. Obviously, if you're asking Pack and I our votes, Defensive Player of the Year, Leaky Black, no question asked. And I think it's probably some of the usual names you think about for Coach of the Year: Coach Davis, Tony Bennett, Leonard Hamilton. If Duke, people are going to vote for John Shire if Duke ends up winning the regular season. I just never understand when somebody votes for coaches who are like expected to be at the bottom of the barrel and then they finish 7th. And so it's like, hey, way to go. Like, that just makes no sense to me. And so, we'll wait and see on Coach of the Year. But here's the last 2 things I want to tackle. First off, I want to look at an over-under on how many conference wins we think the Tar Heels will have, and then an over-under on how many teams the ACC will send to the NCAA tournament. So, Pack, I'm going to set Carolina's ACC wins total at over-under 15. What do you think?
Man, I'm tempted to go with the push there and say they get 15 flat. But I'm it's a 20-game ACC season, so I'm going to go with the Heels finishing 16-4. I just think ultimately the bottom third of the ACC is so bad. We get guaranteed wins there, and just being as good as we're expected to be this year. I really only think about 2 or 3 of the teams in the conference give us fits. Duke, obviously, no matter how bad they are or how bad we are, that's always going to be a game. And then Virginia is going to be nice, and Florida State. So we're going to get some losses in there, but I like us to win 16 of them. What about you?
Yeah, man, I tell you what, I've been hedging a little bit under that, thinking they get clipped more than I thought. But now that I've been looking at kind of what you're saying about the conference here and how bad some of that bottom tier is going to be, I'm going to go over, and I'm going to say 17-3. Like, I think this is going to be a focused and determined and deep and talented team that can just put it together and not come out sleepy a lot. And so I'm going to go 17-3, and we'll go with that. Okay. What about ACC teams in the NCAA tournament? Lenardi, ESPN's bracketologist right now, has it at 7 ACC teams in. As I said earlier, just 5 last year. In 2021, the ACC sent 7. So let's set that over under at 7. Pack, what are you saying?
I'm taking 7 on the dot. So
okay,
I like the rankings there that we have, the preseason rankings 1 through 7. Just a reminder, that's UNC, Virginia, Duke, Miami, Florida State, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. So I like those 7 to make it. And just as a side note, Carolina fans, the last time Syracuse didn't make the NCAA tournament, North Carolina won it all. So I'm projecting them not to make it, and I'll take the Tar Heels again.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I think there's got to be a rebound from last year. And I'll go ahead and say the over, although I wouldn't be surprised to see it low again, just with so many bad teams. It's going to bring the conference, the illusion of how good or bad the conference is down. But I'm going to say those top 7. And then one other team surprises us and sneaks in. Maybe they're in Dayton in the first 4 or something like that. But I'll go, give me 8. Give me 8. Let's get the ACC coming back to prominence a little bit. I'm going to take the over on that. Man, Pack, it is fun to talk all about the ACC, get prepped for the season. It's just about 12 days to go until the first game on November 7th against UNC Wilmington. But folks, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels. Coming up tomorrow, a crossover with Locked On Pitts, Nick Fairbaugh, as we get ready for the big matchup between the Tar Heels and Panthers this weekend for homecoming. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels. Follow Pack at Coach_K23, and you can follow me at Isaac Shade. Thank you for making Locked On Tar Heels your first listen. For your next listen, check out Lock On Sports today. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. Hey, please don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, leave comments on your ACC thoughts, and hit the bell so you get notifications anytime a new episode drops. Thanks so much for spending part of your Wednesday hanging out with Coach Pat Kilby and myself, and we want to remind you that it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Until tomorrow, peace!